Ricky Gervais, you're a comedian known for your subversive humor. You're an awards contender known for pulling off surprises, especially at the Emmys in 2007. Now you're a contender at the Emmys for Netflix, the most subversive media out there, shaking up Hollywood. For people who watch awards like us, this is just great to see you, the classic troublemaker, in the race with a show that you're really taking a big chance, Derek. It's obviously means a lot to you. You're really acting. We're seeing heart in it. Give us your perspective on all that.
I don't know. I don't see myself as a troublemaker. It's funny, isn't it? Because the word controversy sort of follows me around, and even if I deny it, that's controversial. People say
Right.
he denied being controversial. So the Golden Globes surprised me. It surprised me how people were surprised at the jokes I made, because that was prime time network. I didn't break any rules. I just made it a bit of a cheeky roast, and you usually have to kill a lot of people to get that many column inches. And I was shocked at the reaction. Like, this was outrageous. How dare he make jokes about the richest, most privileged people in the world? This wasn't a room full of wounded soldiers. They were up for an award, and also I don't think I said anything that bad. Johnny Depp, does he really worry that I didn't like his film much? No, he doesn't, because he appeared in a show with me. And I just think once it starts, when someone says controversial, he's controversial, he's cutting edge, oh, he's mean, that goes into sort of myth and legend, and I've never seen that. So when Derek came out, I was both flattered and slightly annoyed at people going, oh, he's a nice person. They're like I was the devil. That this is a trick. This is a trick. He's going to get us to like Derek, and then we're all going to die. I've always had a with The Office and extras, I've always snuck in pathos and drama. The Office was about a man going through a midlife crisis. It was boy meets girl. It was a romantic comedy. Extras was about a group of hapless people trying to make a difference. And Derek's the same, really. I think the main difference, I suppose, that makes it look like a bit of an odd sitcom, and it is a bit of an odd sitcom because it's more dramatic than the average sitcom, and it's about a group of quirky characters. They're outsiders. It's about the forgotten. So, on paper, it's not archetypal sitcom material. And it's a bit existential, but then so was The Office. But with The Office existentialism, it was about becoming 30 and 40. With Derek, it's about being 80 and 90 and dying, But it's a show about kindness. And I made the characters a little bit odd and, forgotten and outsiders and dishevelled and with lots of flaws, because I wanted kindness to come along and trump all of that. And I think the main difference, and there's a lot of similarities, there's always the same sort of themes and style to my work. It's another naturalistic comedy with sort of lots of realism and pathos and sadness and but the main difference is the sincerity. With most of my characters, David Brent, Gareth from The Office, we were laughing at the blind spot. We're laughing at the difference between how the characters saw themselves and how we saw them. Well, with Derek, there's a lot less of that. What you see is what you get, and the characters are more sincere, and they look down the lens and they say what they mean. In fact, Derek's one of the themes is that Derek is so honest. He's got no filter. There's no pretension. There's no peer pressure. He says what he likes, and that's another difference, I suppose. In the last few years, and I'm guilty. I'm one of the ringleaders. There's been a lot of comedy of embarrassment, excruciating social faux pas, the minutiae of all our bad bits that we're laughing at. And there's been a huge veil of irony over everything I've done and some other people have done, and I've sort of left that behind. Not because I've changed my mind about anything, because you don't want to do the same thing again, you know. And another difference with Derek is that most of my work, the last sort of 10, 15 years, has been about fame and ego, and that's what's the flawed characters, you know. Whereas these flaws are much more superficial on purpose, because I want, you know, I want it to be what their heart is like, you know, that counts. And I've left that behind. I wanted to get back to normal people. You know, I've always written about what I know. You know, I worked in an office for 10 years and I wrote about it. And then by the time that had finished, I'd been in media for 5 years, so I wrote about it in extras. I did a tour called Fame. I did the Golden Globes. You may remember. And so I wanted to get back to basics. What was really important, that's ordinary people. Ordinary people, you know. And if you look at Derek, on the face of it, it looks a bit odd. But that's because you're not used to seeing realism on TV and in Hollywood. You know, if you walk round the streets, there's a lot more people like Derek and Dougie and Kev and Hannah than how ordinary people are portrayed in Hollywood, played by Brad Pitt and Johnny Depp and George Clooney, these infeasibly beautiful people. So I'm afraid most people look like us.
But it's got to be a real challenge for you in terms of this as an acting work, Ricky, because there's a lot that's not in the script, and there are scenes where Derek is just you know, stacking somebody's coins, or he's giving a look of sympathy across the way, and there's something pathetic about him, but yet you make us love him, and all that has to happen sometimes with an eye glance, sometimes with a gesture, and you have to now think very seriously about performance as an actor here, don't you?
Yes, and you say it's not scripted, but it sort of is. It's just that you work on it as well, right up to the wire. But most of my things have been about performance. You know, if I'd have just written The Office and sent it off, it would still be in someone's drawer. A man you haven't heard of says a joke, no one laughs, he touches his tie. You know, it doesn't leap off the script. All my stuff is to be performed, you know. I think that there's too many words. You know, some things are very overwritten. Some people write things and they write them and they're alone and they write and write and write and then hand it over to someone else. Whereas it all happens up there in one thing with me. I see it on the TV. And when you're the writer and the director and the producer, it comes as one. It's all mixed in, you know. If you handed me someone else's script, I'd probably struggle and I'd panic and I'd think, now how is this meant to be done? And the only reason I started directing and producing so early was to protect the writing, really. And to protect the writing, you have to know it can be performed. There's so many things you write, and then you do a table reading, you try it out, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Particularly with something like a fake documentary. Performance is everything. Just one little loose thing, just one overwritten line, just one infeasibly clever joke, and it comes crashing down, you know. And also I try and create worlds that are a bit slow, you know. Drama is real life with the boring bits taken out. Well, I sort of try and leave them in, because that's what happens. Not everyone in the office makes a great joke and everyone laughs. You know, we know that. You know, sometimes it doesn't go down well and there's an awkward pause. Well, I celebrate those awkward pauses. Same with my stand-up. I celebrate the gasps as much as the laughs and the oohs. You know, I want a reaction, and it's all about the reaction. And just because it's called a comedy, it doesn't mean that it just has to be half an hour of jokes. That's so wearing. I feel the same if I go and see a stand-up comic. If he does 100 one-liners, I'm looking at my watch. I want someone to shamble out and tell me they've had a worse day than me. I want them to get their hands dirty with the audience. It's such a privilege to be performing and putting something out there. And so I think the job of a comedian isn't just to make people laugh, it's to make them think as well. And I don't care what emotions you go through. In fact, I'm sort of prouder of the comments I get saying I cried my eyes out, you know, then I laughed a lot. You know, I don't know, and that might be a slight change, but I've always liked it. My favourite things have always been documentary. You know, I look at a documentary, and I'm jealous that I can never write fiction as good as real life. That's my aim, I think. You know, same as art is to try and get close to emulate the beauty of nature. I think the best fiction is to get just halfway towards getting the excitement of real life.
Chris?
When you signed on with Netflix, they weren't established at all in terms of releasing new material. And, of course, now they are with House of Cards and Derek and Orange is the New Black and so forth. What made you trust that company kind of idea would work as well as a platform where they release a whole season at once?
Well, I didn't know. I wasn't sure, but I didn't care. You know, well, first of all, Netflix is amazing, but not because they've changed the genre or the art form. They just pandered to the way people want to watch TV. It was already happening. You know, viewing habits have been changing for 10 years, okay? The common consciousness went years ago. No longer do people that say, we've got to sit down at 9 o'clock and watch this show all together. People go, no, I won't. I'll watch it in my bedroom, on my phone, on my way to work. I'll download it, you know? That was already happening. So they just pandered to that. And binge watching, that was already happening. People stopping, they missed the first episode of a show, or it was recommended halfway through. They couldn't be bothered to TiVo it, or, you know, they bought the DVD and they watched it 5 a night. You know, I discovered that with The Sopranos and The Wire and the Bridge and The Killing. You know, and so that's what they've done. But it's made a lot of the, you know, cable and bigger networks. They're running scared. They realise now they can't be as arrogant. You know, they can't say, we're signing you up for 7 years and you have to do 26 episodes a year. They say, well, okay, we'll take what you've got now because people are moving over, you know, to Netflix, and it's made a big impact. You know, already a third of the internet traffic coming into America weeknights is Netflix. I mean, that's amazing. It's the biggest broadcaster in the world. You know, and I'd heard these rumblings, and I'd heard, you know, other TV companies that I was dealing with say, oh, Netflix are a bit of a threat, they're a bit of a worry. So I immediately got Ted's email, and I emailed him. I said, I think you're the future. I want to do my next show with you. And Ted sent back, we'll take it.
Sight unseen. Wow.
And I didn't know what it was then, but I had a few ideas, and I piloted Derek. I always pilot things myself, you know, because you learn a lot. And I went, okay, this is it. And he went, yeah. And that's it. And it was a co-pro between Netflix and Channel 4. And they're great. Netflix are fantastic. I mean, I can't praise them enough. It's perfect for me. It's like it was invented for me. You know, as an artist, even one as art form as low as TV comedy, you know, you want as many people to see your work, but with no compromise. And usually, to get that no compromise, that no interference, I've had to go to fringe channels, you know, Channel 4 in the UK or BBC 2 in the UK. I don't want BBC 1 or ITV1 because the pressure's too high. I don't want to acquire people just because they've watched a soap and then a lot of them don't, oh, you know, or HBO in the States, you know. I've gone to fringe channels and no complaints. But what you do is not as many people see your show, you know, but that's fine, right? But now Netflix comes along and they say, well, not only do we not interfere at all, but lots of people will see your show, and it's the sky's the limit. So it's just the best of both worlds. It's great.
Let's go back to the Emmys, 2007. You pulled off a jaw-dropper, Ricky, for Best Comedy Actor for Extras. A lot of idiot pundits like me and Chris were saying, oh, Steve Carell's finally going to win for The Office. He's overdue. He's fine. And I can't even remember our predictions that year, but I'm sure we were probably putting our coins on Carell. Then you beat the man who is starring in the U.S. adaptation of your show. And then apparently you couldn't be there that night. You came back the next year, and that was and your shtick was so hilarious. Take us back and give us your view of all that, because it turned out to be a classic moment in Emmy history.
Oh, was that when Jon Stewart gave it to Steve Carell anyway? Because I wasn't there.
Yes. And then you came back.
And I went back the next year and got it back. That's right. Yeah, that was fun. I mean, I love
audience.
Steve. He's fantastic, but he knows that my job is to tease him. He knows that. That was in the contract. I gave him that job, and I'm allowed to tease him for the rest of his life. I also have 50% of all his earnings.
I hope so.
Still, yeah, no, he understands. You know, he'd be the first to admit I deserve it.
But then you pulled off the big surprise of the Golden Globes when The Office, the British edition, won. So you've got this history which we love, award nerds like me and Chris, of going in there to these competitions as an underdog and then pulling off these jaw droppers. What's your view of all that?
I love being the underdog. It's great. I love how people say, cause an upset. That just means most people didn't think I deserved it. So that's fine as well. I mean, I don't care what happens as long as I enjoy the moment. But you know what? Awards are fun. They're great. I always try and turn up when I'm being honoured or nominated, but you mustn't take them too seriously. Either way, you mustn't take them too seriously if you win, because next year you'll lose, and you mustn't beat yourself up if you lose, because it means nothing. It's a nice nod from your peers, and it's lovely. But I've often done this faux arrogance, when I win awards or whatever, because I'm slightly embarrassed to do the other way. I'm slightly embarrassed to go, this is an honour, thank you so much, because that's like saying, you're right, I do deserve this, and it's touching. So they're great. They're fun to be at, and they're fun to be nominated. It's fun to win, but it's fun, But I do like. I usually hand out awards at award ceremonies, so I can get to go backstage and have a beer, because sitting through 3 hours of other people winning awards is no fun at all. So the next year I went, the year I won that Emmy for extras, the next year I went along and I lost 5 in a row. It was really quick. It was one for the Ricky Gervais show, the extras special or something, a comedy special on HBO, and my girlfriend went to the loo. They hold the doors, right? She came back and I'd lost all 5. It was fast. It was quick and painless. So yeah, I know. Yeah, I've certainly been nominated for a lot more than I've won, but it's as I say, I can't even remember what I've won and what I haven't. But that's the other thing as well. When you go along and you walk out, you've won an Emmy. If you lose, people still come up to you and say congratulations, because they can't remember. They remember the little picture of you once. I could lie. I could just say I've won Oscars and Emmys and Golden Globes. No one would check.
That's funny. Chris?
When you hosted the Golden Globes, especially the first time when nobody knew exactly what to expect, tell us a good behind-the-scenes story. Some celebrity came up to you, I'm sure, backstage or at the after party. What was said to you?
Well, the first one was okay. They knew me as this, slightly chubby little Brit who, made little shows. They may even know that, the American version of The Office I produced. I don't know. And I went out there and it was nice. The second year was very different. So then the third year, everyone was coming up to me in the hotel the week before going, what are you going to say about me? What are you going to say about me? So I had to say, look, no, I'm not. And actually, after the third one, people sort of got it. It took them 3 years to go, oh, I get it. He's just making jokes. He hasn't come here to undermine the moral fabric of America. He hasn't come here to ruin my evening. He's come here to make a couple of jokes.
But Ricky, the first time you did it, let me set the context for this. The Globes never have hosts. They're like the SAG Awards. They just don't do it. They decide to bring you in. Everyone goes, oh, this is cool. They're going to try a host. Then the story breaks that their former publicists, recently fired, are exposing them for corruption and kickbacks and all the things that they have been suspected of. And this is a group that has been accused of being illegitimate by nature, of really being a bunch of refrigerator salesmen and waiters filing to the Buenos Aires newspaper, and then they get to vote for the Golden Globes. So here you came, stood at that podium, speaking of beer, you had a glass of beer, artfully in front of you on the podium with a little smirk on your face, like saying, oh, now let's have some fun. And you said what was on everybody's mind, and they couldn't believe it. The timing of it was so perfect. You were just the right person at the right place with the right guts to say these things that don't normally be said, because didn't all of our mothers tell us, don't insult your hosts? But sometimes when they're in the headlines like that, you have to call them on their stuff, right?
Well, you know, that's what comedy's for, really, isn't it? It's and fiction in general. You know, it's sort of like role play for the emotions. We are just having fun. We're teasing, and you're teasing upwards. You know, so when I tease the Golden Globes, they're my sort of employers for the evening, or I tease NBC, they're my employer. I think people know that, and it's to their credit that they can accept that. It's, you know, I'm a jester for the evening. You know, I'm teasing the king, and they should, and that's the fun, really. And I made a very conscious decision. You know, I had to be an outsider. I had to be like. Imagine if I'd gone up there and I schmoozed and I told everyone in that room how brilliant they were. You know, how nauseating would that be? And the honest truth is, I am sort of one of them. You know, I am in film and TV, and I get annoyed if my cappuccino's a bit cold, and I get driven round in air conditioned. You know, we know we're all spoiled. I know how lucky I am, but for that night, I'm on the side of the people at home. There's nothing in it for them. You know, they're not winning an award. Right? They're not a millionaire. Okay, so. You can have mutual backslapping all you like, but don't televise it. If you're televising it, you'll say it's entertainment. So it's not a spectator sport, other people winning an award. So I tried to make it one. And I made a conscious decision. Do I pander to the 200 egos in the room or the 200 million people watching at home? No contest. For that evening, I'm one of the guys at home. And that's the only way it can be. It's the only way it can be.
Chris?
I've got to ask you about this. I'm a huge David Letterman fan. I have been since high school when he started, and he's retiring in a few months. That's why I want to ask this question. He meant a whole lot to your career here in America, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
What did he do for you to tell other people, and what has made him special as a talk show host? Why has he succeeded?
First of all, he's the best around, best of a generation. He took over from those, you know, other guys and ran with it, and he's the king, and he's the kingmaker. You know, he's great. He's iconic as well. That show is iconic, and so I put out The Office on BBC America. It does well. I think it was their highest rated show with like 1 million. You know, so there's 200 and something million Americans who haven't heard of me. I win a couple of Golden Globes. A few more people heard of me, but you know, they might TiVo it. You know, and then Letterman sees the show. Now, he apparently had shingles, and he was bedridden, and he got loads of DVDs, and one of them was the English version of The Office, and he watched it. He watched all 12. And apparently he booked me himself, so there was already a lovely connection, and you know, I teased him about that. I said, so you were too ill to turn over, weren't you? You were just too weak to turn it off. That's why you watched all of it. Right? And then that's where it all started, and I think I did my 25th appearance last year. But it's meant so much, you know. And once you get Letterman, and then it sort of all took off, you know. And I enjoy doing chat shows because you're sort of there to plug stuff, but that doesn't happen. I usually got there and talk about anything. I feel like I'm still going to work in a way. I try and you know, perform, give the audience again. if you just go on there and tell them how good your program is, that's not entertaining. They're going to make their own minds up. You don't go out there and spend your 10 minutes telling them why they should watch this show. No, entertain them. You've got 10 minutes. You've got 10 minutes. You're already on telly. Entertain them. Make some jokes. So I love that, and I love the opportunity. And he's fantastic. He's brilliant. You know, he's not the only chat show I do and love. You know, I've loved them all. I think the guys coming up are fantastic as well. Jon Stewart, one of the cleverest men in America. Conan's amazing. You know, Craig Ferguson I did for the first time. I'm doing him again next week. Jimmy Fallon, who's obviously huge now. He's the, you know, they're great. I enjoy everyone's got, you know, something, and it's, again, I look at it as a great opportunity. You know, you've got this platform to say anything you want. You better use it, and that's what sort of drives my career, really. I still think of it as a privilege, but I got there by doing my own thing and not trying to second guess people and not doing it by committee and not trying to make it safe and homogenized. So I'll keep doing exactly what I want. And, you know, there is a little impish side of a comedian. You don't want to be safe. And I have arguments. This one goes, go on, say it. And this one goes, no, you better not. This one goes, go on, it'll be all right. This one goes, no, they might hate it. And this one goes, well, okay, we've got to see now. We've got to see. We've got to test it. And this one wins. You know, but what's the worst that can happen? Some people don't like you. They gasp. They you know, scream for your head on a stick. Who cares? Who cares? You know, they're fun. It's jokes. It's entertainment.
Ricky, we'll sign off now. Good luck to you at the Emmys. The show is certainly worthy. It's in a great place on a great network, and it'll be interesting to see how you go.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.